Hi, so welcome to the We Want to Help You Better podcast series by Five Stones. In this podcast series, we tackle the most pressing questions that our digital marketers faced with Google Analytics 4, or by the acronym GA4. So I'm your host, Sue. I'm the Five Stones marketing manager. And we're going to be diving into two real world questions that were sent in by our customers who are using GA4. So joining me for today is Andaru, who is our resident GA4 expert. So say hello, Andaru.
Hi, Sue. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here.
Okay, that's cool. So we're just going to jump straight into the first question. It's about, I think it has something to do with the mapping of user journeys. This customer is struggling to map their user journeys between their content site and then their main business site. It seems that they're finding it difficult to see view through conversions and to track key events like registrations and things
Mhm.
like deposits when they are filtering by specific properties. So, Andaru, what would be your thought on
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. So this is actually a very common issue on looking at basically journeys between functions or sites or events. So the main focus or main idea that we actually need to see here is actually the planning and structuring of the tech implementation. Most of these cases have the issue of they don't have a really good tracking plan. So that's why here in Five Zones we actually have this setup called measurement planning, which means we check each of your events, each of your pages, and how the user actually traverse between the pages or the events. Like let's say an e-commerce journey or
Mm-hmm.
maybe a subscription journey in a landing page and so on. So the whole idea of the user journey tracking is basically where are the customers coming from, where are they going, and what do they do to get conversion. So it's those steps that has to have a coherent journey between each of these checkpoints.
Okay.
And I'm hearing from you is that they have a content site, right? So yeah, basically content marketing is it's a really good way to capture the existing and new users via it could be SEO or basically just inbound marketing. So the idea of trying to filter these registration deposits, these key events that they're actually collecting, basically comes down to how are they actually structuring the whole events and the whole user journey from start to end in their site.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't have access to that customers their account structure, so I don't really know like how they set it up. But I think for you personally, right, like how would you set up account structure, um like let's say if you were this customer of just any other kind of advertiser in order to gain better
Mhm.
visibility?
So yeah, it really depends on how they're actually the definition of what site content and main business site is. So imagine if it's two different kinds of website. Let's say you have the content site is abc.com and then it's def.com for the main site, right? So these are two different domains that aren't interconnected. So what I would do is basically set up a property that has a stream from both sides. So use the same GA4 stream on site ABC and also site DF.
Right.
And do not forget to add a cross domain enhancement enabled in GA4. So that means even if these are two different domains, GA4 will add a basically a code snippet that says, yeah, this session happening in ABC is also a session happening in DF. As long as the stream is the same and the property is the same, you can actually see those two sites have the same user journey
uh,
without cutting the session in half. So I think that's one way. And if it's just a single site, so yeah, just use a single stream, and you don't really need the cross domain tracking. It should actually have the same journey between each of these sites. When you're trying to track like different platforms, like you want to see a site from Android, iOS, and so on, you actually need a consistent tagging scheme between those all of those platforms. So let's say these websites and platforms have the same functionality, right? Let's say everything is a healthcare app and the goal is to have a lab check. and both the Android and the web platform have these functionalities. So you need to scheme all of these tags as the same tag event, the same tag names on each of the platforms. So that's how GA4 would say, oh yeah, that's the same event, and I
Mm.
would count those conversions as a same conversion, even if it's between platforms. So that's another way of making sure that the user journey is never cut off between platforms or domains and so on.
Okay, so that was more about the recommended account structure and whatnot. So how about if we think about it in terms of the reporting output? I mean, your example is like there's the domain abc.com and then the other
Mhm.
domain def.com. So let's say if I want to do a user journey sort of report, if I set it up as per what you recommended, it's like a single user journey across these two domains, right? Like, how would that work?
Yeah, so again, the domains probably wouldn't matter if the session doesn't cut off. And second, in reporting, it's really important that you have to use the correct types of reporting types. So in GA4, you have this the Explorer feature, right? And that's like the most easiest way to actually capture those kind of interactions. In the default reports, basically, besides the e-commerce funnel, I don't think there's any other funneling setups there. So we usually use Explorer.
Yeah.
So in Explorer, you actually have two kinds of tools. It's called funnel and path tool in Explorer. So those are one of the report types that you can actually use, and both of them can actually see where are you starting from and where you're ending. So you can tell them what is your preferred entry point and what is your preferred exit or conversion point, basically. So once you have those, you can actually add in the middle what kind of pages you want to see. Are they
Mm.
going when they go to the content site, are they clicking a certain event before they go to the purchase, yeah, basically, or what do you call it, deciding to purchase things, or so on, or viewing other products after they look at the content site. So those are good visualizations to actually see how people are traversing the site.
Yep. So this
Mhm.
all sounds pretty easy, I think, but the best way to actually learn it is to go into Explorer and try
Yeah,
to
and
create.
fiddle around with everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the
yeah,
easiest way to do
yeah.
things.
Because sometimes these kind of answers are actually subjective because you have to understand how your property is set up. Then you kind of have
Mhm.
to trial and error test on the
Yeah.
Explorer tool.
Especially, I mean, something that we see is the customers actually expect that, yeah, this event should happen and then this event, right? But then in reality, you don't get that. So when you set up the funnels and the pathing and everything, you get surprised, but why is a zero at this point, right? Sometimes you just find out that the event doesn't actually work in the same session, or you had like when you're structuring the tag, or maybe a previous team structured tag, it wasn't ideal, right? So you need to go back there, audit everything, check if everything is actually in order, and then you can have a good report, because those things are always correlating one another, right? So if the tag implementation is not good enough or is not a best practice, you would not get a good report out of the
Yes.
reporting, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Sometimes I think marketers, developers, um,
Hmm.
how do I want to say? They kind of underestimate the skeleton of the event and how it can play a role in shaping the report output. Similarly, with how you set up your GA4 account structure. So I think with regards to our customer, I hope they will kind of get an understanding based on what you have just said earlier, but to also understand that this is going to be a journey for them to work out how to resolve and get the kind of reporting that they want. So yeah, thanks Andaru for helping on that first part of the question. So we're gonna be taking a quick break. Then we're gonna be moving on to our next question.
Okay, thank you, Sue.